Hi, Shawn.
Hi,
Thanks so much for doing this for us today. So we're doing the Insight series, so we're getting to know some pivotal people within the Ottawa community and what they do, and kind of give some insight as to what makes you as a person, your businesses, the charities you're involved with, the physical fitness aspect of you, and all that great stuff, what makes you you, and how other people can kind of learn from just your experiences.
Okay.
So I've got some questions.
Let's see if we can let people into my head.
Yeah.
Certainly into my home, so that's good.
So, for people who don't know you, I think most notably you're known for climbing Everest, I think in the Ottawa community, leading Dream Mountains Foundation, founding that charitable organization and leading teams, summiting different mountains throughout the past 10 years, do you say?
Yeah, well, my first was, it'd be actually over the last 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Everest was in 2010, but doing the 7 summits was between 9 and 11,
okay.
2009 and 2011.
So I think that's what people mostly know you for, but also people know you on the business aspect of things. So creating jobs within Ottawa, owning 2 businesses, being partners in a couple others.
Yeah, I have, generally, to summarize it, when people ask me, what do you do? I just say I have interest in restaurants, retail, and real estate, which is the range. So, and basically I deal with people's human nature.
Yeah. So there's so many facets to you as a person, me knowing you. And also people just, when the name Shawn Dawson comes up, you know, what they think and what you're a part of is fascinating.
I never know what they think.
You don't care, and it doesn't really matter.
Sides. It depends on how you've met me or how I've met someone and came into their lives, and it really just depends on where you've met me or from what perspective. So
what I really want people to know, and maybe we can give some insight to people on just a couple different things. Obviously the fitness aspect of things, this is going to be for health practitioners and people trying to learn, and they're, you know, some people growing their business, their clinics, that kind of thing, identifying with clients and helping them and all that kind of stuff. So the first question I have is just about how you've been able to lead teams towards extraordinary things. Kilimanjaro, Machu Picchu, Everest Base Camp. You take these ordinary people and help them achieve extraordinary things, which is your biggest tagline, which is incredible. So as a leader, what are key leadership things that you deliver on that make a difference?
I think the important thing for inspiring is to make sure that the people themselves recognize their own abilities. For an example, the first time we do when we're training for the mountains, we'll use stair training. Extreme stair training, not like using a Stairmaster kind of idea. So it's difficult for them. And I always tell them to embrace that and recognize that, because I know that consistency, by the time they're done, they may start off with a workout that right now seemed ridiculous. And then we're going to end up doing 10 sets when they start off with 3. And at that point in time, they're going to say, I won't be able to do that. Perfect, because I know you will be able to do that. And I want you to tap into that strength, because later when you do it, I'm going to remind you, look, remember back when? Well, now we're going to go to the mountain. And I'm going to want you to realize that inner strength you have, because we're going to tap into it on the mountain. And then on the days you have a tough day and you can't see yourself getting the next day, I'm going to remind you about the stair training.
And so how do you appeal to so many different groups of people? I think as trainers, I know this firsthand, just when you deal with a clientele, some trainers really attract someone who's exactly like them. So if they're into triathlons, all their clientele is triathletes. But you have an act for really connecting with so many different kinds of people from so many different walks of life. Like even just on our Kilimanjaro climb, we had so many different personalities, strong personalities,
professions,
and levels of fitness, psyche.
Yeah,
so how are you good at that?
Well, I mean, whether I'm good at it or not, I guess what I look at it is I try to really just, even in my business, I try to look at human nature all the time. I try to really just understand people. We all say we love watching people. Everybody says, oh, I love watching people too. But I really like watching. I always catch myself wondering, why did that person just do that?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll try to think it through. And I'm not trying to judge people. I just really want to understand why they do something.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when it comes to inspiring, I try to put myself in their shoes and understand what challenges, what strengths, weaknesses they have, so that then I can try to capitalize and help them with whatever that is. We do hikes, for an example, in the Gatineaus, prepping for our climbs. And everybody thinks those hikes are all about training, fitness training. For me, it's the last reason why I'm doing it for them. What I'm trying to do is understand under pressure, what are they like? If they talk all the time on the hike, and they're always chatty, but when we get in the mountain and they're not, there's a certain day and they're not talking, then I know that even though they're not going to tell me what's going on with them in them, I know there's something wrong. So in spite of themselves, I'm going to be able to help and go, all right, let's talk. Let's figure out what's going on today. And then indirectly, they're going to feel safe and know that I'm still going to watch out for them. So.
And do you think that the way that you do this just intuitionally has something to do with, like, because in this situation, it may not be life-threatening. It may not, but you've dealt with situations where it has been so risky that it could have threatened your life or some of your team members' life on Everest, for example. So do you find that was really, really important when you're doing that?
Well, I mean, for an example, I'm not sure if I'm answering this right, but people will ask me about climbing Everest, and they'll say, were you scared? And I say, no, truly I wasn't. I recognize the potential for all the danger because people were dying all the time around us. But it was about focus. So I just try to focus on what I'm doing, why I'm there, and what my goal is. And if I've decided that that's it, that's enough, then that's it, that's enough. But if I'm still going and I'm still trying to get to that next step, then that's what I'm looking at. So I look at the same thing for people. You know, I take from my own experiences and then I try to translate my life experiences into trying to understand somebody so that I can empathize with what they're going through. So for an example, I know that I remember meeting a gentleman that was already talking about the comfortable bed and the steak back down at, in the city we'd come from. And this was down in Argentina. And it was like, you're done.
Can't go there.
You're done.
Yeah.
You're like, and within about a day, he quit the climb.
Wow.
And this was to Aconcagua, which is the highest mountain in the Western Hemisphere. And it was like, you already knew at this point. There's no way you can start already going back. You've got to just keep forward and look, because and Dream Mountains is one step at a time. If you stand at the base of Everest and look up, it's too overwhelming. You've got to just look at, maybe 500 feet and go, I just want to get to there. Same analogy for our worlds, our business, everything. I mean, it's overwhelming. You just got to take it one step at a time.
Yeah, it's great. So you mentioned focus, and like I said at the beginning, you're involved in so many different things. And someone kind of maybe not knowing your day-to-day activities and how you live your life might look at what you do and say, oh my God, like how do you manage all that stuff? And not just manage, but you do things so well. You have so many businesses that are very successful. Your relationships are really successful. You connect well with people. You're balanced. You're fit. You take care of yourself in a really serious way, and it shows. And then all the charity stuff, and so how do you balance all that stuff for someone who maybe is struggling with that?
A lot of lessons, a lot of going through lessons and learning from myself. For an example, dealing with stress, of course. You've got to learn to change your hat. I mean, if I go from one of my businesses, from one set of meetings into another meeting to a whole different concept, I've literally got to change the hat and start thinking from that perspective. So to be able to learn how to adjust my thinking on the fly. And the other thing is, I think the biggest thing is to manage the stress level. And part of that is to really be honest with yourself about what is bothering you. So if it's some simple conversation in the previous meeting or in something personal in my life or anything, and I'm noticing it's affecting the rest of my day or the rest of my week or the thought pattern I'm having, I've taught myself to really look hard at what is really bothering me and deal with that. so that it doesn't interfere and throw me out of focus for everything else that I have to deal with in that day or that week or, you know, that group or. So I pretty much lay things on the table pretty fast as quickly as I recognize them.
And you also mentioned just in our conversations that it's you really try to be in the moment. So you take the moment as it is, and you have a schedule. You're organized. You know, anyone will know that about you. You're super organized.
Very disciplined.
Very disciplined. But when you're present, you're very present. You know, even I think anyone will attest who's been a part of anything with you that in the moment you're really there. So is that something that you've learned? Is that something you worked on? Were you always good at that? And kind of how does that happen for you?
Well, I think it's an evolution of experiences again, but I do believe in it. I believe if you, if you're already foreseeing a situation, then you miss it out. This may be a ridiculous example, but I remember a long time ago I had a friend of mine she was going to go on a date, and she already had made her mind up about the date, and it was going to be a terrible date. And I said, well, why don't you just go in and meet the person? Just go. You already know that it's not what you're going to do, but why don't you just get to learn about the person and see what they're all about? Well, she ended up marrying him. And it was really that extreme, that simple. But it was about trying, if you're not there, you miss out.
Yeah.
And so I'm always focused, I'm always moving ahead. But the trick was to learn to be at the moment. Because sometimes, especially when you cross over businesses, now this is from a business perspective, there's always opportunities. But if you're clouded, you don't see the opportunity in the situation.
Right.
And you don't see how you can cross-reference it. If I see an opportunity to benefit one of my charities, but it's in one of my retail business meetings, I will. I'll cross over. And that's the trick too. I have to be in the moment, but I have to learn how to to blend my opportunities. And if you're too confused or you're too rushing from thing to thing, you're not really there. And you really might as well just not even have the meeting. Right. Because you wasted your time. So.
Right. So you've accomplished so much, and I know that when I say that, it probably doesn't even resonate with you because you're always moving forward and you always have your mind on the next thing.
Not on what I've accomplished.
Yes. So what is next for you? So people who know you and the Ottawa community, what can they expect for you in the next, let's say, 5 years?
Well, I mean, I committed to 7 climbs, 7 years of Dream Mountain charity climbs. So each one excites me and I get ready for that one, and that gives me the one step at a time. It's my short term. So in 2015, we take another team to Everest Base Camp. We have Leanne Cusack from CTV as our media guest. So that's my first focus, and to try to bring the best out of that team, and raise the most funds that we possibly can and let everybody have a great experience. So there's one part of my world. In my business world, one of my businesses is Fat Boys Southern Smokehouse. We've just signed an NHL contract, which I'm proud of for my team. I think it's amazing. So it's now to live up to that expectation and to grow the company and hopefully expand locations. In my private world, I love my relationship. I keep working on being better at that and finding balance and trying not to bring my chaotic world into her life, which isn't always that good, but I try. And then just maintaining the relationships I have and having fun with them and being in the moment. So my friends realize that I may not be around for them day to day, week to week, but I never let them down when they need me. So.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for sharing with us just a couple things.
It helps you guys at least see into my world a little bit. Hopefully it helps out people.
Oh, I'm sure it will. Awesome. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.